Welcome to everyone to our Facebook Live event, Ideas for Improving the Automotive Service and Repair Industry. This event is sponsored by the Institute of Automotive Business Excellence, and I'm very excited about our podcast today because we have some of the industry top experts at the table with us to discuss this particular topic. Our guests are some of the best at what they do, and they care very much about the industry and its future, and I've had multiple conversations with each of them even before this meeting. Let me introduce our panel today. We have Kevin Fitzpatrick. Kevin is an expert in the automotive technology field. He's vice president of Autologic in charge of North America. He began his career in the automotive industry in 1987. Kevin, I was aging myself. I beat you by about 9 years. As an automotive technician, 2 short years later, he graduated from St. John's University with a BS degree in communications. In 96, he opened Plandome Service Center in partnership with his brother, Peter. While launching his career in business, Kevin also began teaching automotive technology classes in 1996. Recently, the Fitzpatrick brothers purchased the neighboring property and expanded the Plandome Service Center to a second location next door. In 2006, Kevin stepped away from the daily operations of the automotive repair business and began working in tech support at Autologic. Eventually, Kevin purchased the North American sales rights and started Autologic USA with 2 other partners. Autologic was later absorbed by the UK, and Kevin became the, I can't see the writing, the CEO of Autologic Diagnostics. In 2016, Kevin left the company and after taking a short hiatus, founded Farsight, a new technology company with several partners. Farsight was purchased by Drew Technologies along with Autologic not very long ago. In addition to his responsibilities as president of Autologic, Kevin still starts every day at his shop. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great to be here.
Next is Carm Carpriotto, Remarkable Results Radio. Carm spent his entire career in the automotive aftermarket. His experience on the jobber and distribution side of the industry kept his focus directly on the service professional. He held many roles at the executive level in store operations, systems, and sales. He always admired the extremely successful service professional. There's an entrepreneurial spirit there that makes them stand out above the crowd. Their story needs to be told, and Carm has been telling that story for quite a while now. Why does the story need to be told? There are so many struggling shop owners that are working in their business and not on it. If they had the opportunity to hear how successful owners overcame their challenges and turned the corner, would it or would it not help them? The podcast was born as a medium to share success stories from all aspects of the aftermarket, and Carm's the top dog in that arena. As the premier aftermarket podcaster, the voice of the aftermarket, he has spotlighted personal stories of achievement of numerous service professionals. He has interviewed aftermarket business coaches, trainers, technicians, educators, students, association executives, female shop owners. It's like 60 Minutes meets NPR. Along with 2 new podcasts each week, Carm hosts a weekly single topic Town Hall Academy Industry Forum. The Academy is broadcast live on Fridays on Facebook and repurposed as a podcast. Carm is collecting powerful stories while connecting people who want to help build a stronger aftermarket. He says, I am changing the behavior of how aftermarket professionals get their information, training, and insights, and I believe it. Here I am to
Hey, thank you for that. I should have sent you the abridged version.
Yeah, that's okay.
Appreciate that.
We're almost through.
I have a paragraph, but I didn't know you're okay.
Go for it. So, Carm, welcome, and glad to have you, my friend.
Thank you, man.
And last but not least, Tom Ham. His is a little shorter. He's owned an auto repair shop in Michigan since 1978. In 2003, he created AutomotiveManagementNetwork.com, which today has more than 12,000 members. Wow, Tom, that's fantastic. Tom's wife, Deb, is his partner in both endeavors, the shop and this. He's held a Michigan's mechanics license since 1975 and now spends his days managing the shop and the website. He served as a board member with ASA in Michigan. And Tom is an expert in shop management software systems. While he does not sell software, he writes extensively about them, how to shop for them, and which features to look for. And Tom and I have been friends for a long time. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Notice I'm the only one who followed instructions with a brief bio.
With a brief bio, yeah. I know. How does that work, right? What can we say? All right, so let's get this road on the show, so to speak. I have prepared some questions and some polls. So this came out of a conversation that Tom and I were having, kind of online, and then it led to offline. And I believe, and I've been working towards the professionalism of the automotive service industry literally my whole life. I think as a young technician, that the technicians don't get paid the way they should. They don't get treated the way they should. I don't think the shop owners get paid the way they should or treated the way they should. And I think it's mostly of our doing. So I don't think we make the kind of money we should, nor are we seen as professionals. How do you guys feel about that comment or that statement? Let's start with Tom.
As far as whether we're seen as professionals?
Not as, I think not as well as we should be. Not in most, I don't know, as an industry. Certainly, Tom, there are shops where all the customers feel that they're very professional, et cetera, et cetera. But as an industry, I think we've held ourselves back there.
I was thinking a lot about that, and we're assuming that we do have a bad image or a poor image. We're making that assumption, and then asking the question, why do we have a poor image? And that opens us up for a whole another discussion of why do we have the poor image, if that indeed is true.
Well, you got this whole thing about we were behind Dennis, now we're ahead of Dennis as far as the least favorite place to go or be. So I don't know if that's part of the image or not part of the image. Carm, I see you shaking your head. You have some comments about that?
I'm in with you guys, and I'm agreeing. In order to prepare for this, I'm a research kind of guy. I always get into the topic. I found a AAA survey, top reasons that U.S. drivers do not trust repair shops. Recommending unnecessary services, 76%. Overcharging for services, 73%. Negative past experiences. Concerns that the work will not be done correctly. How does this happen? Why does it happen? The media hasn't been a friend because they get a new reporter out there and they say, hey, go find an auto scam, and they're out there and it becomes negative news for us. And maybe even call it fake news, because we know what's the majority of our shops. I think, again, let me talk about the fact that I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of successful shop owners and so many people inside the industry. There isn't a better industry to be in. Everybody works so hard. Cultures are improving, pay is improving, and all that's going on. I think you're onto something here. I think there's some momentum to latch onto, but it's going to take an awful lot of effort. I mean, I think if there was momentum and the wheel or the pendulum is bigger than we ever thought. And I hope that at the end of this great discussion, there may be a glimmer of what to do next.
Okay. Kevin, your comments here.
Well, basically, I don't like to compare auto technicians or the industry really to any other trades, but I think it's you're unable to do so in this particular case. The bottom line is this: when a customer is calling an electrician these days, that electrician can nine out of 10 times give that customer a very accurate estimate right off the bat. In many cases, we can't do so. Also, when they're calling that electrician, many times they're looking to have a new 80-inch TV installed. Well, as automotive technicians, we unfortunately are an undesirable necessity in many cases. So customers bring us their cars after they've had a negative experience, they've broken down on the road, and the bottom line is oftentimes these negative experiences that customers are having with us or our industry are not the scheduled maintenance trips. It's when they bring a car in and they find out that the $200 estimate grew to $1,400 because there's a certain module in the car that needs to be replaced. So how much of this we're actually responsible for, And again, it's difficult to change. It will take time. It's going to take education on our part to inform customers what's really involved with repairing these vehicles.
Talking about Carm's comment about, the media is out looking, kind of going out and they're looking at any shop that there's a problem with, and they find them. They find plenty of them to put articles about. In every industry, there's a certain percentage of the industry. I don't care if it's doctors, lawyers, shop owners. They're just not good guys. They either don't understand the business at all. They didn't get educated well, but they're just plain not nice people. And then there's this 10, 15, maybe 20% that are really great at what they do. And then there's the guys in the middle who make up the middle. And that's fairly true of every industry.
Yep.
Carm,
That's what I think we're all working so hard to do. Tom, your site is so chock full of information. I love your site, by the way. I get so much information from it. And of course, you're so kind to allow me to post some information there. And I've always said, Cecil, it's almost the words that I use a lot. There's that top 10, maybe 20%. And then there's the bottom feeders. We call them knuckle draggers. And we really believe that they're always going to be there. Unless something drastic changes. But then I call that ugly in the middle. That my term is, and there's no disrespect to the guys that are there. But I think what we are doing inside the industry, Tom's site, the podcast, Cecil, your passion to bring this story line to the industry can bring, it's got to be, and I'm not saying it's got to be all or none, but we need to drag some in the middle over the line, kicking and screaming. That's my opinion.
So then, all right, I've been 38 years ago, I started in this industry. And about 5 years in, I joined the ASCCA in California. I was on the state board. And at that time, we were very big into, let's get some professionalism, certification, licensing in the industry. And I think half as many, I think if you took the certification licensing thing and you said, how many guys want that? Half the guys would say, absolutely, that's going to help us. The other half would say, no way in heck am I going to do that. I don't want to get behind that. It's too costly. The government, blah, blah, blah. If we need something to drag the other guys, I mean, I don't think that the 10% at the bottom of the barrel are going to go away, no matter what we do. If we create certification licensing, they'll get licenses, or they'll work under the radar until they get busted, and they'll always be there. But how do we drag, what do we need to do to drag that middle portion up and over the line?
I think.
Go ahead.
I would start with Ken.
I'm sorry. I think that what we need to do is, I think we need to educate the customer. I think we need to educate the populace on this. Now, when I say a customer or a potential customer needs to do their homework, I am not talking about Yelp. Okay, I'm not talking about going on and seeing what reviews actually exist. I'm talking about talking to neighborhood people and finding out what the best shop is to go. And when you interview a person in that shop to find somewhere to get your vehicle replaced, let's say it's a newer Mercedes, let's say it's a newer Volvo. Talk to that shop owner, make sure that they have the equipment to fix your car, because that is your best chance of getting a quality repair the first time. You see, the knuckle draggers, as we're referring to them, okay, or the bottom 10%. My feeling is, and it's not going to happen overnight, is that they naturally go away if they don't have this constant stream of uneducated customers bringing them work that they're not qualified to handle.
Don't you think though that there's somebody for everybody, meaning that if I'm a knuckle dragger and I don't have the equipment, that I still have people that want me to fix their car because the price is so cheap?
Well, again, there's a trade-off there. You know what I mean? Again, unfortunately, when you're driving a vehicle with 90 control modules in it, you know what I mean? CAN bus, FlexRay, all of these various technologies built into it. Okay, you've got to do your homework, or else you're opening yourself up for something like this. Truthfully, I don't see any way around it anymore.
Well, and I have a little bit different take on it. And you like some controversy here, don't you?
We do.
We get crossfire, get some friction going. One of the terms that I don't like, and I hear all the time, is educating the customer. And my view on it is this: We have 1,000 customers and 10 people in this industry. What do you think is easier to educate? 10 of us or 1,000 of them?
But if
Right?
if hold on, if one of those 10 is making money without making an investment, okay, he's not going anywhere. You can say anything you want to him. If he's got a constant stream of fresh meat through his shop to defraud or not do the right repair, he's not going anywhere.
Kevin, let me ask you what you mean by educating the consumer. Are you talking about a campaign from like an ASE, or are you talking about at my counter, I bring insights to my customer about what it really does take to keep your car safe and reliable?
Carm, I think it's a combination of both. I think that ASE and all ASA and everybody, I think that we've got to kind of just all get together as an industry. Again, all of these various associations should get together and embark on and say to all of the customers, here are the top 5 things that you want to see in a repair shop to fix your car. You know what I mean? You want to see this level of tools, this level of education. Look for the ASC seal. Look for these different things that in many cases will not be in that shop.
And so
philosophically, I agree with that. And the educating on the counter, when people have questions, we need to answer them. We need to answer them well. But people have so much information going on. I mean, look at all the different services they use. If they need to learn the ins and outs of every health club, every golf course, every electrician, every furnace prep, they're just not going to do that. There's just so much going on information-wise that their mind is getting packed with. And I think what we need to do is make it obvious to people, because there's a certain amount, we can't be a nanny, obvious to people, well, what are the signs of a good shop in general? And I mean that in a very general sense, not
Right.
too technical.
So-
And what are not the signs? And that becomes, we can make shop, we can show shops how to do that. I think part of the problem that we have is we have a huge segment of our industry that when we talk about image, they don't know they have a bad image. They don't know that they should have a good image. And the ones that do know it, they don't know how to get the good image. They're really not well versed. They could be educated, and I think a lot of them they would stand for the education. They would learn, but I think we have to offer that to them. How many classes have you seen over the years in management? An image class, strictly an image class. I've never seen one.
No.
And what I talk about, again, cutting to the chase. We've all been to the trade shows. We've been to the seminars. We've been to the big events. We can mention them all. And you guys know, you walk down the halls and you're looking at some of these people and you're going, oh my God. And I'm not trying to be arrogant, but you know what you're thinking. You're thinking, my gosh, does he realize what he looks like to a customer?
I
And
don't disagree.
But Tom, hang on just a sec here, because
yeah,
those are the guys we need to keep bringing up.
yes,
Those are the guys that we need to be
Yeah.
reaching out to and saying,
yeah,
hey,
I think we agree.
so how?
They don't know.
Yeah, well, they don't want to know. They don't have time to know. They don't have money to know. I mean, I've been teaching for 15 years. I have done thousands of classes, and you want to know something? I see the same guys, the same top 10, 15% at every trade show, etc. Where's the other 80% of the industry? Why aren't they there? I mean,
So you're right. So let's put you're the coach, the consultant guy. We need more of you. We need every person in the middle to have a coaching consultant. How about that? Okay.
yeah, let's do it.
That's it. Let's make more coaches and consultants. Let's get everybody on board. I'm going to throw it in your lap, Cecil. You need to help corral that group in the middle. AMI. I interviewed someone just the other day who said, so where'd you get your business education? I never went to college, never did it, joined few associations, but I got my AAM from AMI. I studied, I learned. I was so excited to hear from this very young man, business 8 years, did that on his own, realizes he needs to go to another level and he needs a coaching consultant. In fact, you and I talked about that.
So one of the things we're doing, Carm, to try and solve that problem. First of all, I'm teaching new consultants to do what I do, to know what I know. Okay. But also we have the online stuff that you and I are both doing to get that information out there in an inexpensive way to reach the masses, the most of the people. Consulting on a one-on-one basis is cost prohibitive and time prohibitive, frankly. So I think some of the new technologies
for the shop owner or for you?
Oh no, for the shop owner, at least in their heads. I mean, oh my gosh, obviously we could have a whole we could talk for the next 3 hours about, guys go to class and they make more money and they have better businesses and they put more money in the bank and they have more time. Guys that don't go to class struggle and struggle and struggle. Guys that have consultants, people that they go through a program with. I don't care if it's a large, program, medium-sized program, small program, they get benefits out of it that they go, I don't have any clients that walk away and go, oh my gosh, what a waste of my time. I didn't learn anything. Okay. Most of my clients are 5-star clients, 5-star reviews. You changed my life. We made more money. I had a better life. But the middle guys aren't getting in the picture.
So in order to create that lift or that really big ass hairy goal, that BHAG goal out there, we need to tell that group, you need to figure out how to attract good people, improve your pay and benefits for your team, create a better work environment, develop a business culture that creates team that takes care of customers. You need to be paying for training. You need to make sure that you're building your future techs, that you have a mentor program or an apprentice program, and on and on. And I guess if that story is told, will someone raise their hand and says, listen, I got to be in on this thing, because that is the future. That's where our future is. Can we create the picture of what the future shop owner is going to look like and what he needs to do?
All right. So in my, and maybe that's what we should be doing here. But in my frustration, working, 30 some years, 15 years as a coach and consultant, I thought I would change the world. And don't get me wrong, I've changed some worlds, but not enough. The impact is not, as soon as I train 2 more guys come in the industry that don't have a clue and don't want to have a clue. And they're going to struggle and struggle and struggle, like my father did, to make a living their entire lives. As opposed to, I had a shop, one of my clients here 2 days ago, and they need to hire a good technician, except they can't. Their bathroom is disgusting. The techs have to go in a place where I wouldn't even walk in. The shop is filthy. They've got good customers, but they haven't done the other things around the staff and cleaning the place up to attract a good technician into that business.
Is he a client?
He is a client, and we are.
And I've interviewed people, and you've been their coach, and they love you, and you really push them to do the right things to change their business. How come you can't get this one to do that?
Oh no, he is. We're just starting. Starting. I mean, this is our first real meeting after we did the business plan.
So
give me a couple of months, baby.
All right, you are the silver. You're the silver bullet. I got it. Okay, the silver bullet.
Look at me. I'm red now. You're embarrassing me.
No, I'm sorry.
No. So let me see. Let me see if we can get refocused here. Is there something that we can do to get this middle percentage in the game? Our associations, ASA, great association. I'm a member myself. I support them. I teach for them. I do all kinds of stuff for them. But I don't know how many members they have at this point in time. I don't think it's more than 12,000. In fact, I don't even think it's that much. And we have 220,000 shops in the United States, according to, give or take 10,000, according to who you talk to.
That's a low number.
A low number of members or a low number of shops?
There's way more than 220,000. That's a low number.
I've heard as much as 250. I've heard as low as 190. I pick somewhere in the middle to use, and always say plus or minus. And it's the same 10,000 guys that are constantly going to training. They'll be at Vision. They'll be listening to Carm. They'll be listening to me. They'll be buying Autologic from Kevin. They'll be on Automotive Management Network. But we need 50% or 40% or 60% of these people to be along to an association that has a goal to raise the aftermarket to make us better. I don't think we can do it with 10% or 3%.
Now, and I think except for the criminals at the bottom, which is a very, very small number, I think most of those people that you're talking about, they want to have a better shop. I think we're often under the impression that they're not interested, they don't care, they got better things to do. And I don't think that's that many people. I think most of them, the vast majority, would like to have a better shop. They're scared a little bit. These guys, you go to the ASA meeting, they all, they're all like clean and everything. And they're kind of arrogant, and they look down at me in my dirty overalls or whatever. And they're a little bit intimidating. And I don't really know what to do. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. And nobody has really shown me. And I didn't go to college. I don't know all the stuff I'm supposed to know of a professional businessman. And nobody really shows me. And I think there's a huge opportunity there to show these people. And what we're often showing them is we're showing them basics that we assume everybody knows, but they don't know.
Right. I agree, Cecil, real quick. I think the whole thing goes back to really profit margin, quite simply. And if the guy's in the middle, everything that they want to do, everything that everybody wants to do to their shop and to their life, eventually goes back to money. Okay. Now, if these guys came into the industry, like I came into the industry I started pumping gas, and then you like things and you stay in it and you're doing more and more. And at the end of the day, you lack all of that professional business training to make sure that you're getting the proper percentage on every job and everything else. At the end of the day, you're working extremely hard, but you can just never get there. You can't buy those new uniforms. You know what I mean? You can't retile the bathroom because you're just staying afloat. And I think again that's the vast majority of the industry, because they lack those simple accounting skills. And then the tax man comes knocking because, you know what I mean, they screwed something up. And now that can set them back for years. I think that, and what I'm saying is it's not an isolated incident, Cecil, as you know. I mean, it's so many of these guys that are hiring people and then finding out, you know what I mean, half their guys are off the books and half their guys are doing this, and they're doing things that a professional business person wouldn't do to stay afloat. I think it all comes back to, again, basic business training.
All right, so I can't cut hair without going through a school and getting a license and showing that. And by the way, there's a test where they make me cut hair to show that I know how to cut hair. All right, I can't practice law without getting a license. Forget about all the education, but without having passed the bar and done what I need to. But I can work on your 2-ton death machine that's going to carry your family around with nothing but some tools that I went down to Sears and bought and no real education. Why? I can go story after story after story. My washing machine broke. The washing machine repair guy showed up, charged me $27.50 or $37 to show up. He lives a block away from me. He had an S10 pickup, maybe $1,000 worth of tools in his tool belt, spent 15 minutes fixing my washing machine, and charged me over $200 an hour to do that repair. And I gladly paid that. And I'm not saying that I don't think he was worth doing, paying the washing machine repair guy. But there's an idea out there that if I'm paying more than $100 an hour, if this repairs more than $400, I'm getting ripped off. And we're supporting that in our industry with these websites that are all about who's got the best price in town. It doesn't take into account whether or not the guys are qualified, which tools they have, what their record is, what their comeback rates are, what kind of experience they have, what their education is. All it is here's what the price is. And we are supporting that as shop owners. And to me, that's a problem, especially if we have to educate not only the public, but ourselves that there is a higher level of professionalism necessary. And oh, by the way, when you get there, it's a nice place to be. It's profitable. You have a better, Kevin, when you started, you busted your knuckles, and now life's an easier life because you did learn those things.
Right.
So how do we get the industry involved and away from some of this other stuff and focused on dragging these people up? I work with WorldPack groups. It's impossible to get people into groups. They don't have time. These other shops that you're talking about, Carm, come to a meeting for a day? Oh my gosh, I can't do that. I have to finish these cards. Otherwise my payroll is going to bounce.
Right.
So I'm at the point now, I've been talking for 38 years. I'm ready to take a gun out there and start forcing people, which I know is not the right thing. But on the other hand, what are we going to do? I don't want to grow old and die and not have done what I wanted to do in this industry, and that's professionalize the industry. In my head, that's how it's described. Carm, you're itching.
Well, no, I'm not itching, but I'm sitting here thinking, I'm a kind of an ideas guy. So you're laying stuff on me, and these synopses are pum. And one of them was make some noise. And I just wrote that down. My point of it is the show is making noise right now. And I hope to do anything I can to promote this message. And then I had another thought. I think you were speaking, Tom. We're going to a seminar. We're seeing someone, the way they're dressed, and maybe people are looking up or down at each other. Why shouldn't our associations have a first timers get together? And that would ease someone into understanding and appreciating the networking value that comes from this. And again, Cecil, my thought is I've always said to people, listen, I'm holding a seminar. I need you to come. I'll get a limo to pick you up, whatever it takes. My point of it is that what's big something out there will rock the world of some of the people to get them to recognize that they need the training, that they don't know what they don't know.
So I have two ideas, and I'm going to spit them out, and then I'm going to let Tom talk because I know he's got ideas too. Number one, get the top consultants and trainers together. Create a video. Get them all to take whatever they do best and do a 30-minute, look, here's your finances. Here's how to make another 5%. No charge, free. Distribute it through the association or whatever to every shop in the United States. Everybody. Get it in their hands somehow. Now, we don't have to distribute it in the sense even of giving them a CD or anything. We can put a place online where they can get there, but they have to know it's there for them.
Yep.
And so there's number one. Now, that way I'm not the only guy on the thing, and I'm not competing against, Elite or ATI or Management Success, Arlo Connor. I don't care. Get the information in the hands of the people that need it the most. No charge. In fact, I'll pay you $5 to watch the darn thing. I don't know, but let's do that. Number two, instead of having websites that look at price and primarily or only at price, let's create an industry site that rates shops based on 10 or 12 criteria, maybe 50 criteria, and gives them a point range of 0 to 100. What does the place look like? What's the education? What's your comeback rate? What kind of tools do you have? What kind of education levels do your technicians have? What's your cost? Have that be one of them, but with small weight. And let's create for the consumer and for the shops to rank themselves, to start to say, look, here's a shop in my town and they rank 92 and I'm at 43. And if I'm at 43, you know, like the Yelp stars or the Google stars, a lot of people aren't going to come to me because they're going to want to go to the shop that's ranked 92 or maybe the shop that's ranked 85. And right now, I think that's one of the ways that's possible because of the internet, because of the communication that we currently have, to create a ranking system that matters in our industry. And if we do it as an industry, we also control it, we police it, and we don't need the government to step in. It will take on a kind of a world of its own as more and more shop owners participate. Tom.
Oh, absolutely. Expanding on your idea of getting the trainers together, I can see a 2-hour podcast, whatever you want to call it, live podcast, kind of like Carm's town halls, that kind of concept, that are scheduled on a regular basis over time. And they're the fundamentals 101 of running a profitable shop that people in your community want to come to. And there's a lot of people that will come to that won't come to all these other things because they can sit in the privacy of their office at their computer. It's free. They're there anyway. They don't have to meet anybody. They can just sit there and they can listen, and they sit there and go, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah, you know, you mentioned you just took on a client with a dirty bathroom. And, you know, don't you wonder, people don't know that in a business, the bathroom's supposed to be clean? Now, obviously, they
don't.
Oh, well, but the thing is, they know that intellectually, but they never have put the connection together between a good service business and a clean bathroom. Nobody's linked that for them. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to link that for them, and the light's going to go off, and oh, that does make a difference. They don't know. See, a lot of times we think, well, people, that's just the way they are. A lot of times they don't know. They need to be educated. The licensing thing, and I can talk all day on that. That is just, you know, I was thinking, you know how well federal mandates work. I mean, you know, it's illegal if you're not a U.S. citizen or you don't have authorization. You can't be in the United States, can you? Oh, except for the 10 or 15 million people who are. And of course, you can't smoke marijuana. That's a federal class 1 drug offense. You can't do that.
Unless you're in certain states.
Yeah. And on it goes. And these, you know, these certifications, they, or any kind of licensing like that, it primarily serves one purpose, and that is to funnel money to the government.
And create bureaucracy.
That's what's going to happen. You know, you got, and I'm in a state where, well, not right now, but usually when I'm up north, I'm in a state that's had licensing, both shop and technician licensing, since 1975. And our shops are not significantly different than the shops across the border that don't have licensing. They're pretty much the same. The underground shops, we have underground shops. I mean, hundreds and thousands of them all run.
But Tom,
the licensing doesn't make significant difference.
Because I just have to talk about this for just a second.
Yeah.
It is not the certification and licensing that's at fault in that particular instance. It is the lack of enforcement of the rules and the laws, which is another thing that we see in our country today. I mean, we have rules and laws. You can't be in the United States illegally. It's against the law. You are a felon. And guess what? We have, 15 million by all accounts, people in the United States that are not felons, that are citizens of the United States that don't have citizenship. They came in illegally because the law is not enforced. It's reinterpreted, misinterpreted, not interpreted. We don't have enough people to enforce the law. We don't have enough government. We don't have enough this. We don't have enough that. And so maybe certification licensing is right out. Who cares? It's not going to work. We're not going to get enough people involved. And by the way, if we do it all and nobody enforces it, who gives a crap?
Yep.
But what about the public opinion? What about the opinion of the people in the shops and the public opinion of the public? Certainly Yelp makes a difference. Some of these other, Google makes a difference. Kevin, you're sitting there. I saw you kind of chewing your lip there for a minute.
Well, again, since we don't mind a little controversy here, I'm going to take a slightly different tact. Now, let me start by saying I am absolutely no fan of big government. And I know that there's a lot of potholes along the way here, okay? But just imagine for a second, and big pipe dream on my part, by the way. Just imagine for a second we have 250,000 shops, if that's the number we're using in the U.S. Each one of those shops has 4 technicians, and a license was $100. We're talking about $100 million in revenue, okay? Now, the way it's set up, or the way we envision it being set up, is that money would flow into the government and disappear into any one of their various programs, okay? But if we could get the right legislation where that money was somehow earmarked for education, and I know we have the lotteries, and this hasn't worked in the past, but we're talking about making a major impact on the industry. Because today, in order for somebody to leave, to come out of high school, where most of the programs have been completely eliminated. I didn't have one in my high school. They go to one of these national automotive training centers, Lincoln Tech and UTI and all of these places. They're not inexpensive, okay? So when we talk about why we don't have anybody in this industry, why these shops are struggling, why these guys are having such a hard time is, well, because when a 20-year-old kid comes out and he's got $35,000 in debt, okay, from getting an automotive education, no license involved at the end of it, by the way, okay, which in some places in the country, you'd consider at that point insurmountable debt that technician has at that point. The way a lot of these programs are set up, those kids are funneled into dealerships where they're put into the make-ready department. They're not paid a tremendous amount of money. We don't get them. We don't get them in the independent aftermarket. They go to the dealership group because they're the ones that sponsor all those places. They're not paid a lot of money. And in many cases, they're leaving the industry, owing a major tool company, for a toolbox at 22%. So we're not doing ourselves any favor. So maybe there's something to licensing if we can get that money earmarked for education, so that that's not the only avenue to our industry.
But I'll tell you, and I think licensing in a way has to be a part of it. And I think it has to be done by the industry and then taken to the government. And I think there's going to come a point in time where it's going to be forced. Frankly, when these self-driving vehicles come out and some yo-ho works on a car and somebody gets killed, then the government's going to step in and go, wait a minute, we have people working on these cars now that nobody drives. And so I can't blame the driver. I have to blame the car, and the person that fixed the car didn't do the job right. This is coming. Like it or not, this is coming for us. Now, here's my problem, and that is, why would anyone want to be a technician in the automotive industry that doesn't absolutely love cars? It ain't to make money. I mean, these guys are coming out of these schools with this debt, and they're being offered jobs at $15 an hour, $17 an hour, $18 an hour. And because we don't know how to make a living in this industry, we're not profitable as shops, not to the way that we should be, such that we can support our staff. Most of the shops I know, they give vacation begrudgingly. They don't have medical, can't afford it. They don't have 401ks, can't afford it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When we don't have anything to offer other than, hey, you're going to come work really hard. You get to buy $100,000 of your own tools, and you're going to bust your knuckles, and then eventually your knees and your back are going to give out. That, to me, is where the core root of the problem is. If we had great jobs with some prestige attached to them, where I could actually get paid, maybe some of these students who are going into other industries would look at the automotive industry and say, wow, that's a place where I'd like to try my hand.
Right.
And Carm, you were sitting up pretty tight while I was speaking. I can't hear you. Got you muted somehow.
Oh,
I'm sorry. No, I wasn't. I wasn't that tight. No, I've so enjoyed this conversation, and I want to take an exception to something. You talked about ranking, and I loved the idea. And then my crazy mind immediately said, well, if I do my own ranking and I rank myself high and I'm really not a good shop,
no, it has to be an industry
All right, you have to figure out how to vet it.
A variety of professionals in the industry in different areas saying this
Okay,
is what it looks like.
I'm totally with you. So then that absolutely leads to where I was going, and that is ASE. And what I want to say is, when you think about the number of techs we have and the number of certifications that we have, if the industry, I think one of the solutions is that the industry would have to get behind this non-governmental agency and take the level and the value of the Blue Seal to where it needs to go. And then that could ultimately become, because of what is in that criteria, a way to license technicians. And then we've got to sell the hell out of it. Now, if there was a place to put money, that may be it with re-engineering.
My belief is that it can't be something that exists today. And the reason why is because there's prejudice already involved in almost every area. So, hey, ASA, great. So what? I tried them, didn't work. They're not this, they're not that. ASE, they don't really want to be the standard if you ask them. And frankly, I don't know that there is prejudice against ASE testing. I think it's too simple, and it's gotten more complicated. But when ASE allows an oil change certification, and now because I've got an oil change guy that can change oil with an ASE certification, now I get to put that on my building. For the guy that has 7 master techs in his business, that ruins it for me. It doesn't say anything. I think that the only way to really do this is to start from scratch, bring as many industry professionals together as possible, determine what the criteria would be. There has to be some fee involved because it's got to be financially supported. Otherwise, it ain't going to happen.
Right.
And then let's do our own ranking, and to hell with Yelp, and to hell with, Repair Pal or whoever else is doing it in our industry. I think that's how it has to go. And I may be wrong. And you could certainly, again, controversy is not a bad thing. Yeah. We could argue against it, but I'm saying, Carm, I think it has to start from scratch and it needs to be something new.
Yeah.
Love the problem, never the solution.
Yeah. No kidding.
And so I'm open to your ideas because I love the problem, but I'm never going to love the solution because there are so many out there, and you can't be closed-minded. As much as I started out with, should ASE be it? Hey, I agree with what you said, but then again, maybe there's a hybrid version of the ideas that are sitting out there, which is why exactly what you said.
That's also why we're having this conversation. When 35 years ago, if you talked to me, probably the most closed-minded guy in the world. Today, maybe not as open as I need to be, but a lot more open than I ever was. Give me a good idea, Carm, and I'll run with it. I'll make it happen. I'll get behind it. But we need something, and we need something now, because pretty soon it's going to be 2019, and then it's going to be 2020. And if we don't do something now, at some point, the government's going to step in and go, look, guys, sorry, but you can't work on these cars anymore. And by the way, these are the majority of the cars that are coming out. We have to fix this, and we need to do something now that can really make a difference, hence the conversation. Kevin, your thoughts?
Again, I completely agree with you, because again, when we move into, again, all the advanced driver assist systems and everything else that we're seeing, they're not easy to fix. They're not easy to calibrate. It requires a considerable investment. Now, all of those systems that we're playing with today, they're all precursors for the self-driving vehicle, which is being tested by a number of companies all over the country. Okay, it's not science fiction. It's coming. Okay,
it's here.
It's here. And to your point, okay, when they don't have a driver to blame, you know what I mean? Driver, it's going to roll back on the technicians. So as an industry, we can either do something ourselves now to elevate ourselves and elevate the mass in the middle, or it's going to be jammed down our throats. It's going to be one way. It's going to be one way or the other. So again, I always favor self-regulation, over any involvement from any of our great overseers, I want to give you one example of something. Back in 1996, when I first opened my first shop, we had a parts program. One of the parts manufacturers said, "Hey, we've got this program. If you want to get training through us," and it was great training. You know what I mean? You can join this program that we have. So we joined the program. Now, when we joined the program, they actually sent somebody out to my shop. Okay, and they said, they walked into the shop, and they said, "Okay, you've taken X amount of training over the last year, so now you're eligible to join our installer program. Let me see your AVR. Let me see your lab scope. Let me see this scan tool. Let me see that scan tool." So they actually came out and they did the homework on the shop before they certified you for that shop. Okay. I recommended this program to a number of shop owners 2 or 3 years later. 2 or 3 years later, the program had degraded to the point where all you had to do was call them with a credit card, pay them $250, and you were in the program. So there's going to be a trade-off. If you want the mass of people, you have to lower the qualifications, because obviously they try to maintain a certain level of qualification, and then they dropped it when they didn't get the numbers that they were looking for.
Not in a ranking system.
Okay.
If you created a ranking system where you held the rules, okay, so you don't have an AVR, look, it takes 3 points off.
Okay.
You don't have this, you don't have that, or maybe you didn't pay the $200 for us to come out and do the evaluation.
Okay, but
so you can't be ranked.
But who's going to oversee that? We're talking about establishing a group, or we're talking about going to somebody?
No, I think it has to be a new established group that is a nonprofit, it can't be this chain or that chain.
Sure.
It has to be participation from many different parts of the industry to create the standards and the rules. And then what's the pricing? What do we need to do? I'm sure that some of the bigger companies will support it financially, but that won't take it. It's still going to have to be, there's going to have to be some cost.
Yep.
So I'm envisioning 2 things. Number one, I like Tom's idea. Let's get some trainings after hours, in the evenings, whatever, that we'll get consultants to come in and do. We'll create some basic 8 things that need to be talked about, and we'll do it several times. We'll record it. We'll put it on Remarkable Results.
I'm already working on that stuff.
Okay, etc. And have that for those guys that need that. And then number 2, we need something different, something new, and not because the other guys aren't good or couldn't do it, but because of the prejudices that are involved. A nonprofit organization starting from scratch saying, look, and then let's get input from multiple places about what the standard should be. And then you're right, Kevin, it won't be up to my standard, because it won't be, you have to be perfect.
Right.
But you know what? I don't think that if we had a 0 to 100 ranking, I don't think there'd be a shop that would be 100, because I ain't seen a perfect shop in my life. I mean, I got a couple guys that might get in the mid to high 90s, but I don't think I'd see 100. And then the consumer could, then on the website, you could say, this is how it's done, and these are the qualifications. And so then the consumer could make a decision, and the shop owner could make a decision. Look, I'm 40 because my bathroom sucks. Frankly, if I clean my bathroom up, I'll get another 10 points. That'll move me up to 50. I want to do that, or whatever those qualifications were. And I think it has to take into account more than, do we fix cars, more than what our cost is, et cetera, et cetera. It's the only thing I think that would be fair and really, and again, it can't fall into the hands of someone that's going to twist it for their financial gain.
Right. Yeah, and I think and you mentioned it, and I get it, and talk about some of the big manufacturers, part companies, or whatever would get involved, but see right away, now here we go again. Now, well, they must have undue influence. And I think to really do it well, I think it has to be financed by the shop owners themselves and the people in the industry, and not by one of the vendors. Okay. Not by somebody making money off the industry. And I think you can, I think there's a number of different ways to look at this, but there's some fundamental things that you can do without anybody going to their shop or anything. And I was just making a little list. I mean, you know, to join this, to get our approval of being a shop that has our stamp of approval, however we do that, you have to have a federal tax ID. You have to have proof of your insurance for your workman's comp and for your liability. Yeah. I want to see I-9s for all your employees. I want to see an air conditioning license for the EPA. I want to see a sales tax license. If you're in an area that requires licensing like Michigan, you have to have those licenses. I want to see a business license if that's required in your area. I want to see proof of correct zoning, that you actually have a business that's zoned in that particular area. Something as straightforward as 24 warranty, 2 years, 24,000, no ifs, ands, or buts. You need to have a website. You need to have Wi-Fi for your customers. These are basic fundamentals that any decent shop ought to have. And I think we could put together a list of stuff like that that's easy to prove, so nobody has to visit the shop, where they can sign up and become a member. And I think the better shops would say, well, yeah, I'll sign on for something like that. I'd like everybody to be halfway decent, and we get rid of some of these bottom feeders.
Well, without government support, we can't get rid of the bottom feeders. They're always going to be there. But with doing this right, we raise the level for the consumer, that the consumer can make a more intelligent choice.
But we're making the separation more specific, because again, we come to the point. Here's the bottom feeder customers and the bottom feeder shops. You know, they kind of deserve each other, and they're always going to be there. So we're really not going to worry about them too much, because any customer who's reasonably decent is going to look over there and go, nah, I don't think so.
No, he's only got a 22, or he's not ranked at all because he won't participate.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, but I think there's definitely things that we can do that are very specific. We have a huge advantage nowadays of technology and communications, and look what we're doing right now. We didn't have these tools just a few years ago, and we can implement all this to do many of the things that people have talked about since I got in this business in 1969. And we can do this stuff now. We just got to take advantage of it. Somebody's got to take the reins, do it, go after it, and be very impartial, not have a bunch of exceptions, cut and dried stuff, have to be kind of a hard ass where you need to be. And you know, that's all part of it. And it's very doable, I think.
I think if you put the rules in place in the standards, and that's created by shop owners, people that are involved in the industry, that are the industry, and then they're held accountable. It is what it is. Yeah. That some people are still going to complain, but so what? We've done the right thing. Carm, you had a comment, I think, Tom.
No, I don't. I'm just shaking my head in total agreement with the concept here. I like it. I like where it's going. Tom, I think you were spot on. I researched today the New York State, which is where I live. You have to be a registered repair shop, and that's exactly what they require. I mean, even certificate of occupancy for the building. I mean, there were really some details there that says you're a legit business in this state. But one of the things that I think about a lot, guys, and I have seen the miraculous turn from shop owners from being mediocre to really being excellent, is culture, mission, vision, values. And are they paying for training? Do they buy technicians' tools? And we could get very deep in that. But one of the things you said, Cecil, that I liked a lot was the weighting behind the answer that ends up having the board of directors of this organization says, what is the image that we're really looking to put out there? Who are we? Who do we want to give a great rating to based on the weight of a particular area of interest? I really like that. And I think that could, put people into the high 80s and in the low 90s. And then you got to spend money, and you got to spend money to tell the consumer what to look for.
And I think, well, that's the other thing, is that if we did this, now we've got to advertise it. People have to know about it. And pretty soon we are more powerful than Yelp as far as the automotive industry goes. I mean, again, it's got to be nonprofit. It has to make sense. People have to agree. At least on the years ago when I was in the ASCCA, they put me on the board. Well, I got voted on the board, and then they had to rewrite the bylaws. The bylaws were actually illegal, and they asked me to run the bylaws committee because I'm such an arrogant, forceful kind of guy. And they wanted me to have 4 people on the bylaws committee. And I said, no, I need 17. There were 17 different organizations in the ASCCA, different areas, different whatever they call them. And I needed one person from each of those
Committees.
on the committee, so that when we had to take it to the chapters, they were the 17 chapters.
Okay.
When we had to take it to the chapters had to say, no, my guy was there and he participated, so we have to own this. And we were able to get more than a 2/3 vote and change the bylaws, which people thought was impossible. But we did it because of the people that were involved and the magnitude of it. Okay. And I think that if we do it in that kind of a sense here, that we're going to make this thing happen, and that it could be just a wonderful thing for the industry. And it is not at this point mandatory certification license. The government's not involved at all. And I think at some point the government's going to have to be involved at some point down the road, but maybe it has nothing to do with this. So we're kind of at that point where time is running out. I planned we'd be over a couple of minutes here. Not that that's an issue. What I'm seeing from our conversation is, number one, we need education, and we need affordable education or free education or whatever that we can get. And we not just me, Cecil the consultant, but Tom the consultant and Bob the consultant and all the rest need to participate in this and start to educate that middle portion. Okay, that doesn't feel like they can get away, that they can pay $500 for a class, blah, blah, blah. So I'm game. I'm ready to go. I'm already shooting 30-minute videos that we're going to be able to put online, blah, blah, blah. So I can start to get that out there. I'll play with anybody that wants to play, and I'm putting it out there. Next, a ranking system, something new, that carry each of the 12 areas, 13 areas, I don't care if it's 50 areas, whatever they are, carries weight and has a points value, so that we could educate consumers just even on the site, saying, look, the guys with higher points will have this, the guys that don't, here's what we look at. And price is a piece of that pie. It is not the giant piece of the pie. It is along with, do you have the tools? Do you have the education? What's your comeback rate? Do you have your licenses? Are you zoned to work on cars where you're at, et cetera, et cetera. And now, then we have to do some advertising. It's got to cost something. Shop owners have to support it in some way, or somebody does, because now we have to go tell the public, here's what we have. And I think it goes nuts myself. I think it goes crazy.
Right. Cecil, I think it even goes deeper than that. I think not only do the shops have to support it, I think we have to get complete industry buy-in. I think the parts companies have to kick in. I think the parts suppliers have to kind of kick in to protect this industry, the one that we have today, before we wind up with full government regulation.
Well, and I think the only problem you see Tom shaking his head no, is that people are going to be afraid that if money's being put in by the big boys, that the big
Right.
boys are trying to twist or control.
I
Now,
agree.
if I'm involved, I will make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, do we give up that money that's valuable for marketing, et cetera? If I'm fine, if every shop owner wants to pop $100 in here and make it happen, I'm great with that. I don't need, 10 somebody else.
Kevin, to your point, when you look at the suppliers embracing ASE to their marketing programs,
Right.
and this thing was called whatever, AAA, whatever it's called, then they would probably embrace it too, because they know that it would be valuable they want to sell parts to somebody,
Okay.
and they would probably want to embrace it, even though they're not connected.
I agree, but my concern is that we have this complete scattering of effort in the industry, where it's, if I'm a technician, and let's say I'm a technician that wants to become a super tech, and I want to be in that top 5%, and I'm going to this parts chain, and I'm taking all of their classes, and I'm going to this parts chain, and I'm taking all of their classes, and I'm an educated tech, and I'm spending 3 nights a week in classes and half the weekends in my month, and I'm taking all of these classes. Where's my certification? Where's that piece of paper that I can show to that customer to show that customer how educated I am? Whereas I think that if we had some kind of commonality to the whole thing where we could take all that money and put it together and get that technician some kind of a certification where he can say, I've attained this level.
You take those classes so you can become an ASE certified master technician. And ASE has to be almost a sister to this effort and do as much promotion about the value of ASE that we would be doing as to the value of what a vetted shop is.
Yeah, I don't know if ASE is the complete answer. You know, I think they're a big part of it. But again, to Cecil's point, I don't know how much of this they want to wear or how much of this they want to.
I just think that they continue to do what they're doing, and maybe they'll look at something like this as a way for, to kick it up a notch.
Yep. Again, good point.
I think we need as many players in the industry as possible to get involved and be invested in this and be behind it. And frankly, I almost don't care who that is, as long as the controls are in place to make sure that no person or no company shifts this to their financial benefit, frankly. The financial benefit is going to be that we're going to have better shops, more financially prosperous, better image for the industry because of it. The customers will walk in, the bathroom will be clean because it matters now. They'll have their insurance because it matters now, because they won't get ranked. And frankly, that's going to matter. I just think, I don't want to see, I'm not trying to compete against ASE. And frankly, if we try to compete against some of these other guys, we're going to get ourselves in trouble. They'll become enemies. I don't want any enemies. I want to raise the automotive industry, whatever it takes, before I die, right?
Listen, ASC can continue, and they should, everything to do with education, certification of knowledge. You are running an image campaign, and in essence, and I'm not trying to dumb it down to something like that, but what did we start talking about an hour ago?
Yeah,
that
it has to be.
And part of that though goes to the pure essence of profitability and success and the right labor rates and all that financial piece at the end. And if you don't have that, you don't have, your image is poor. You know what you look like if you don't have that. Well, you got to have the funds in order to grow.
And we would even look at education of not just the technician as one of the ranking things, but education of the service advisors and the owners as well. If you've got your AMI, that's wonderful. Yeah. Fantastic. Now let's get a couple of points for that.
Right? Talk about a connection. You're vetting a shop, and you get to this certain area, and they don't rate well. Click there and go take an AI course or two.
Right, and they're online, and they're easy to take. Or you can go to Vision or ATE or STX or any of these trainings that are there. And by the way, if you don't want to do that, I know that not just myself, but guys like you, Carm, we've got education online for people. So
yes,
there's lots of other people putting the pieces in a place that are easy to get to. And
Dave, I'll give everyone a little secret. My podcasts are going to be available for AMI credit soon.
Oh, all right. Great.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
I should be a doctor then.
I know, exactly.
A doctorate degree in automotive. I'll tell you, I'm actually working with the local university to get credit in an automotive business degree.
So, do you understand what I meant? I mean, people can actually listen to the podcast and earn credit toward their AAM.
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
So, yeah, I know, and we're writing the questions now for a bunch of episodes, so I'm excited about that.
Okay, so I don't know. I know where to go from here, but frankly, I think we need.
Hey, you and I need to talk today. Okay. By the way,
after this, give me about a half an hour, and then I'll get to you. Are you good for that?
Actually, I have a 3:30, so make it more like 45 or 50 minutes from now.
Okay, about an hour.
Something you need to know. Thanks.
You call me when you're available, sir.
Okay, I'll call you.
All right, last words. I'm done. I'm not going to say any more. We'll start with Tom. Tom, last words.
We touched on real briefly on getting other people into the industry, which is, and we could go, this general subject you're on, we could go on here for days on this, all these tangents, et cetera. But that's a big one. That may be one of the centerpieces that we can use in building it. And that's being able to tell shops, how do you get people? Come on, we have a shop 101, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to show you how to get people. And part of getting people, and I've talked about it before, that I've been in a lot of shops. I would not work in most of them, and I mean most of them, because they're too dirty, they're too disorganized, they're too cold, they're too hot, they're too drafty, they're too humid, on and on and on. We want professionals. People expect to work in a professional environment, not a sweatshop out of the 1930s. And that's what a lot of these places are. It's kind of like, I'm my dog back here. You want me to work back here fixing cars? There's no way. And we really have to make a huge difference there, show people what's needed if they're going to get people to come in and actually work on these cars. They're going to need a lot more than just pay.
I already have an online class about hiring and training and mentoring. I mean, these are classes that are being taught in the industry today. So, all right, Kevin, last words.
Nothing. I think this was extremely helpful. And just one real quick story. Back in the, here in the Northeast, a lot of our repair shops are also gas stations. So back in the early '90s, I was working for a gentleman managing a number of gas stations for one specific brand. Well, that specific brand came out with something called Total Quality Management, and he said, as part of this, you need to remodel your bathrooms, and those bathrooms need to be up to these standards. And if they're not up to these standards, we're going to cut your rebates, and you're going to pay more for your fuel. Well, after 2 months, and they were sending secret shoppers around to make sure that was done. After 2 months, it was no longer an issue with a single one of these repair shops or filling stations, because their volume went up decisively, considerably. And they found out that there was a direct relationship between happy customers coming in, using your facilities, buying your goods, and showing that customer enough respect to give them a clean bathroom. Amen. So again, just a little credence to what you said.
There was an interesting comment. I've been kind of trying to read the comments, and man, a ton of comments. You got to go on and look at that after we're done. But some good, some not so good. But one of them said, imagine that if you had a ranking that had legitimacy, maybe you go into the SBA and you get better rates on a loan.
Yeah.
Maybe you get better rates on your insurance because of it, et cetera, et cetera. So this thing could carry more weight and actually be really financially beneficial for shops if they were to participate and really make their shops a top shop, and they should get something for that. Yeah. Carm, you get the last of the last words.
Oh, geez. I think of the word firestorm. This is another one of those. I know. And maybe we created that here, both positive and negative. But I also think of the pride piece and lifting the image. This is actually just one of my most altruistic things. More shops locally together. Think of all the business, the supplier groups that do bring their people together on a monthly basis. Maybe this will help them change their agendas and get people thinking more into a different area. And Kevin, I loved what you said about the bathroom. And years ago, I had this program called We'll Buy the First Gallon of Paint. And it was basically designed to go in and stand at the curb of a guy's building, right, with the gallon and saying, I'm buying this. Whatever color you want, I'm getting it. But you need to paint something inside the building. You need to give a chance to look from the outside in.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for participating today. I know we did start a firestorm. I'm very excited about it. And I want to carry this forward. So look for some more, for me reaching out to you a little more so that we can kind of, hone this better and make this happen. And then anybody that's online or that watches this that would like to participate, please send me a message. You can do that through Facebook or at Cecil, CECIL @IFORABE.com. And we'll go ahead and move this thing forward. Again, thanks so much, guys. This was fun and fantastic.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for putting it together.
Take care now.
All
Yeah,
right.
thanks. Thanks, Cecil.
Bye.
Bye, guys.